Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Al. Now, we understand that every 3 seconds a new podcast is created, and now there's actually one podcast for every 3 people.
So we just wanted to take a minute to say thank you very much for downloading this one, and we hope you enjoy it.
In a nutshell, we realised that some of our film tastes weren't what you'd call conventional. So we decided to talk about them and hopefully shed some light on some films that either didn't get what we felt deserved at the time, or we just wanted to rewatch and talk about them.
You don't have to have seen the film, but if you haven't, you may want to just give it a quick Google.
What's the and that?
Enjoy the podcast. Hello, and welcome to Just Films and That, a podcast where we discuss films we feel may be underrated, underappreciated, or we just want to talk about them. I'm Josh Hallam, and I'm here with Al Bollins.
Hello.
And Adam Ward.
Yellow.
We're joined by a special guest today, chaps, aren't we? We're joined by Mr Jonny Sharples. Johnny, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So, if you've never heard the podcast before, we always start with a completely random question. I'll pass to Adam and Al so you get an idea. Al, what's your favourite crisp?
My favourite crisps would have to be Flaming Hot Monster Munch.
It's an excellent shout.
I used to get them instead of ice cream on holidays. From the ice cream van, they do like a load of crisps, and instead of...
You got a packet of crisps.
I got a pack of crisps.
That cool you down, did it?
Unusual pick.
Yeah, especially on holiday.
Yeah.
But no,
$1.99 and a packet of Flaming Hot Monster
yeah,
Munch,
please,
please.
just cool me down. Yes, I don't like the new monster on the Flaming Hot.
Well, there goes our sponsor for this week.
They got a bunch of new monsters on the new Monster Munch, and I'm not keen on them, but they still remain my favourite crisps.
I'm gonna, in terms of Monster Munch, I'm gonna have to be controversial. I prefer roast beef, mate.
The worst of the Monster Munch.
No, they're not.
What's wrong with the monsters?
Well, so basically, they had these monsters, right, and then they changed them and modernised them, and that's when they look good. And now they've brought back the old ones. Now, you just pick up a pack, you'll see.
This happened with Munch Bunch. There was like a...
The yogurts?
Yeah, there was like a bunch. There was like
A bunch of
They were like a
munchers.
bunch of like fruit characters, and they got rid of them. I think they just put like a cow on
Bloody
there.
political correctness gone
Yeah,
mad.
I know.
I
These
want those
strawberries
fruit people.
walking around with
Yeah,
raspberries.
Exactly.
Right, Adam, what about you? What's your part?
Quite a posh one. I like the sweet chili kettle chips.
Oh, that's very
Overrated
Yeah.
sweet chili, I think.
Sweet chili is an overrated flavour,
It
but I
is.
don't mind them.
Big on it.
Prefer roast chicken and thyme, though, which is even like more middle class.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like thyme on my crisps.
I tell you what, I like herbs.
Yeah.
I went into Asda once and there was a packet of lobster and pink
That sounds
champagne.
absolutely disgusting.
It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
That's a
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah.
They do like M&S. They do like prosecco crisps, don't they?
Yeah, gin. I think of the
They're
gin
all
and
right,
tonic
you know.
ones.
Are they?
They don't need to be a thing, but they're all right.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the monsters or bottle of prosecco on the side?
Yeah,
of
they're
those?
fine.
Yeah.
They're all right there.
Mine's. Do you know what? Mine's Watsits.
No,
No, I love Watsits.
don't like cheese.
Really?
Flavors.
You
don't like cheese
don't
flavours?
really like cheese as a whole, but
I don't like
No.
You're the, yeah, you're the
but cheese
same.
flavored things are
freaks on the
disgusting.
podcast.
Yeah.
Although I do like pizza though, but other than I wouldn't have like cheese in general.
But you have cheese like mozzarella on a pizza, but that's
Yeah.
that's as far as you'll go.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have a cheese board.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh, I love a cheese board.
I love a cheese.
I love a cheese board.
I'm a vegetarian, so
Oh, yeah.
it's made very difficult by not liking cheese either, because that's
Yeah.
basically how they bring it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that keen on spicy food, so vegetarian food's very bland because it's vegetables. So when they try and add spice to it, I don't like mushrooms. So when they do
mushrooms, cheese, and spice.
So when they
Did you
do
say,
portobello mushrooms instead of like a meat burger,
Yeah.
it's made very difficult by the fact that I only really like red pepper and Pringles, which is what
This brings us on to the question, what's your favourite crisp?
salt and vinegar, very specifically salt and vinegar Pringles.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, I do like them.
I like the fact that they've got
good.
such a kick to them. Like to say, I don't like vinegar is about as spicy as I can get. You know what I mean? Which didn't say much, but I did a thing when I was my nephew, who's now 8, was younger. I love salt and vinegar, anything chipsticks, hula hoops, Pringles especially. But he had some original hula hoops when he was about 2 or 3, and he was sat eating it, and I had some salt and vinegar ones. So it was basically Russian roulette. Took one of my salt and vinegar Pringles, put it in with his salt and vinegar hula hoops, put it in with one of his original hula hoops, and just played the waiting game and waited for his little face went, oh, contortions that you've never seen before. And then it's one of the finest moments of his young life. Hopefully he doesn't remember it, otherwise it might come up in therapy in a few years' time. Where it all went wrong for him was
Flashbacks.
when.
I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah,
My uncle.
I'm seeing blue. I'm seeing blue packet. I'm seeing a blue packet.
Is Al, you're a vegetarian as well.
I'm
aren't you?
vegetarian
My
as well,
my
yeah.
other half is vegetarian. And she has the same problem. She doesn't like mushrooms.
No.
She hates mushrooms,
They're
so it's
slimy.
difficult. Yeah. I don't mind. I'm not averse to them. I wouldn't pick them, but I don't mind them.
Growing up, this is. I was very much pandered to as a child, and so my mum would make like a spaghetti bolognese, and she let us get away with a lot in terms of food. So I didn't like mushrooms. My brother didn't like onions. My sister was a vegetarian. So when she made spaghetti bolognese,
Plain spaghetti.
she'd have to make some of it with mushrooms in, some of it without mushrooms,
Oh,
some with
bless her.
onions, some without onions, and then an alternative vegetarian option for my sister. And she did it, and
what
I
a
think
champion.
What a
that's
saint.
Yeah.
Round of applause, Johnny's mum.
She will listen to this as well, because she listens to absolutely everything I ever do. That's what happens when you retire. You got to fill your days somehow. So just become your son's biggest fan.
So obviously most people, Johnny, are going to know you from your kind of your Twitter page, which you mainly talk about football. Obviously, we are not a football podcast, so
Thankfully,
yeah,
Nice
I
to
know
talk
that you're
about
very
something
much
else.
keen to not be pigeonholed into talking about football. So out of interest, what I tried to when I was preparing the interview, try to think about stuff I kind of was interested to know about someone who's got so many Twitter followers and does a lot of writing on Twitter about how the day-to-day kind of, I don't know, mechanics of it all work. So how did you kind of get started on Twitter? Was it literally you just tweeted and it just got picked up? Or?
So what I think I was quite an early adopter of Twitter because I'd done all the other social media things. I'd done MySpace and
Bebo.
I didn't do
I
Bebo.
loved Bebo.
Um,
That was my favourite one.
Andy Carroll was massive on Bebo. I wasn't going to talk about football. His Bebo is very famous. No, I didn't have Bebo. I had MySpace very early on. Facebook when you had to have like a .ac email address to sign up for it.
Yeah.
Face Party, which was one of the really early
I don't
ones.
know that one.
Habbo Hotel.
I did used to go on Habbo Hotel as well. Like with 56k connection was awful. But so Twitter, I originally thought I joined Twitter. I don't know if you remember when Stephen Fry got stuck in a lift. And he live tweeted it and it made a lot of headlines. So before Brexit and before Trump, they would fill the news with anything. And so the news that Stephen Fry got stuck in a lift and was live tweeting it off this mysterious website was quite a thing. So I thought I'd join Twitter on the back of that. But on this day on Facebook, I don't know if you ever look at your Facebook memories.
Yeah.
One popped up, which was before that happened, which was basically, I've joined Twitter because I want The Guardian to start writing articles about me. And 10 years down the line, The Guardian still haven't written a single article about me. But I first used to use Twitter to tweet what my scores on Call of Duty were. So remains a mystery why The Guardian didn't see that fit to write articles
Yeah,
around.
what are they playing at?
I know. So for a long time, I just used Twitter as basically day-to-day updates about what I was doing and stuff, and no one really cared. But then the 2014 World Cup happened, and Twitter really built up by that point, and lots more people were using it, and I think a lot more news agencies and different companies were on there, and I think it was a more legitimate sort of website and source for news and source for updates and stuff. So I was like watching the football and tweeting about it and tweeting jokes about it. And I think I got the right followers. So I think Adam Hurrey was one of the first to follow me. He's Football Cliches. And Ian McIntosh, who's the guy behind the Totally Football Show and Muddy Knees and stuff, they followed me and shared it with their followers. And you sort of get followers off the back of your stuff being shared further. So yeah, I just sort of carried on what I was doing and sort of honed it a bit more and forged my own jokes and niches and things like that. And now it's, 50 more I have more followers than there are seats at St James's Park now.
That's a nice little stat.
Which is
That's
cool.
a nice
surreal.
little stat.
You should have that as your bio.
Yeah, it would be good. And I remember when I got more followers than the Stadium of Light has seats.
Yeah.
And that's twice as many as people actually go to their matches. So anytime I can get digging about Sunderland.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very surreal. I did an event with Twitter the other day, and they specifically invited me to go and speak to an audience about how I use Twitter, and that was why anyone cares what I have to say about Twitter remains an absolute mystery. But there's still some imposter syndrome, but I must be doing something right somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like the way it's exploded now with Twitter, because it's the main way I get my news.
Yeah.
Which is probably, I know you have to be very wary of what is and isn't legitimate. So I think I tend to only really pay attention to legitimate, verified sources.
Yeah.
And even then, you just never know. But it's the main way I think a lot of people get their news. It's the way things spread really quickly and that kind of thing. And it is interesting. It is. I think it's interesting when you look at, like, I still do use Facebook, but when you look at, like, I think I've had Facebook now for nearly 10 years or maybe 10 years. You look at, like, original things you put up, like you said, on the memories.
Yeah.
And I used to write mine, like, grammatically correct. So because it said my name, I'd be like, is something, it'd be like, is going for a pizza. And it's like, you look back and you're like, where did I?
I think
Because
Facebook used to, it did,
forced
yeah.
you to
Oh,
have
did
is
it?
And it
Oh,
could
right.
force you into, like, it would ask you how you're feeling as well. So you could be like, Josh Hallam is feeling hungry. Because
Yes.
the way the statuses worked made you do that.
Because I think we forget a lot about how much it's changed. I think if you're ever bored and lonely on the winter nights, you Google Facebook and put a certain year in, it will show you what Facebook looked like back then, and it would tell you it would tell all your friends every time you made a new friend, every time you liked a new page, every time you updated every single photograph. I think it's sort of shortened that down now, but yeah, the time it was. Forced you into certain situations and certain syntaxes.
It's Twitter's definitely my favorite of the social medias. I
too.
have Facebook because I think it's a good way of keeping in touch with people if you don't live near them. And I would never want it to be a kind of out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. But I love Twitter for just comedy,
it's the
and
funniest.
political comedy,
it's the
sports,
funniest.
everything is just, it's so funny. Like
Yeah.
you can get into so many amazing. You can get into so many amazing rabbit holes, but because we all use Twitter, right? Not
Yeah,
to the same level as yourself, Johnny. But
Be
but yeah.
thankful.
Well, I mean, in terms of when you're on Twitter, like, what do you consider yourself? Because I know you've been called online joker. Is that
The BBC called me an online joker, which is like it's like when Joey in Friends has to write a letter for Monica and Chandler, and he just goes through the thesaurus to sound as clever as possible. That's basically how being called an online genius. They can't call him a Twitter joker, can't call him all this sort of stuff. But I don't know, Twitter user, idiot. More profanity than that. I got called a comedian on 5 Live, which was strange because I'm not, because I don't make an earning from it. Comics, all right. BBC once called me a former York City midfielder because they got their research absolutely wrong. They googled Jonathan Sharples, I think, and then there's a John Sharples that used to play for York, so they just assumed that was me. But he was born in like 1973, which I definitely wasn't born in 1973. So I think online joker, which was what the BBC called me, just because it just sounds so grandiose and ridiculous, and I think I quite enjoyed it.
So anyway, back to Twitter, Johnny. Who obviously you've got many followers, as you said earlier. Who's your favourite apart from us?
One of my favourite people in the entire world is Alan Shearer. And he's also one of my followers on Twitter. So I would have to say him. But I've got, I'm very appreciative of all of them. If they can stick with the nonsense that I come out with, then stronger people than me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? We've got 4 of us here, and 3 of us are through football are fiercely loyal to Alan Shearer. And then Adam's a Liverpool fan. So we've got 2 Newcastle fans. I'm unfortunately a Blackburn Rovers fan. So one thing I'm always interested in, and I don't know what you guys think, is when you've got so many Twitter followers and people are constantly replying to you or tweeting you, is your phone just constantly going off?
I wanted to ask that.
Or do you just mute everything and just kind of check in? And
So, because I have a blue tick, I'm quite fortunate that I can hide certain things. And I have it set, so I have it very tailored. So I only get notifications if someone that I follow has retweeted it,
Oh,
or someone
right.
else with a blue tick has retweeted it. I only get notification that I've had a favourite if it's off someone else with a blue tick. So I'm quite lucky in that regard, but I have had occasions where it's hit the right audience and lots of people with blue ticks are favouriting it, and so that does jar your phone. Or if I literally, that's just like push notifications. If I do go on the app, I've had times where the app's just stopped working. James Corden retweeted me.
Oh, wow.
And he's like obviously massive in this country and in America as well.
Yeah.
So that's two lots of people might not have understood the joke necessarily, but because it's got James Corden's sort of seal of approval, they'll like it or retweet it regardless. So it was a joke about Jose Mourinho and James Corden. And basically, James Corden came across it and retweeted it and replied to it, and it was big. So that was weird. But like you say, no, I've tailored quite a lot.
The VIP club.
Behind the rope. So
Not like us little slugs who've only had like 4 retweets and 2 of them were from each other.
But it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's with all the for every. If a tweet gets big, you always have someone telling you how you could have done it better as well. And it's like, well, you happily go and do it yourself. And I'll just get tagged in it saying you've nicked my joke, which is also what happens a lot of very polite grasses.
One of the great things that kind of social media does is it gives everyone a voice. And one of the bad things social media does is it gives everyone a voice.
Yeah.
So everyone has this opinion, ill-informed or not, and feels that they can use it. And I think it's quite funny that everyone has this kind of opinion that they feel entitled to use. You don't necessarily have to put it out there in the world. It is okay to keep stuff to yourself. I do I like following political stuff, but I feel like I worry I don't know enough about something politically, so I never really do any political tweets of my own. I might retweet stuff that I find funny, like football managers' hair on politicians and stuff, but I would never. I mean, I'm hopefully not making a rod for my own back here for the future, but I tend to avoid it because I worry that I will not know something or I'll miss something or, something like that. So I don't know. And you two are kind of the same, aren't you, really? I mean, Adam, you're not probably the least active of the 3 of us on Twitter, aren't you? And Al, you're about the same as me, but it's mainly...
It's pure Newcastle.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I'm not very fun to follow, actually, because of that. It's just pure Steve Bruce rants or Mike Ashley rants.
But the best thing about... being on Twitter, being a Newcastle fan, making jokes about it, is there's always some punchlines that involve Newcastle. Absolutely. So you can always find something to laugh and joke about, even when it's all going horrifically wrong, which more often than not it is.
So we'll dive straight into this week's film, which yourself has picked, Johnny. You've picked Empire Records. So spoiler warning for that if anyone's not seen it. Do you want to give us a little background on it, what it's about and all that sort of stuff?
So basically the plot of Empire Records is that there's a record shop called I think it's in Delaware, in the state of Delaware in America. And it's an independent record store. And it's basically about to be sold off to a... big corporation that we sort of don't know about, but one of the employees finds out this secret, gets that day's takings, tries to bet, goes to Atlantic City, tries to make all the money back, loses all the money, and basically it's less than 24 hours in the day of the life of that record store. We meet the different employees that work there, all the different stuff that happens as they try and sort of come to terms with the fact that they're possibly all going to lose their jobs. It also doubles up with something called Rex Manning Day. Rex Manning is an fictional 80s pop star who's coming to do a record signing for his new absolutely terrible single full of old ladies that want to come and meet him, he isn't very popular, and just all sorts goes. It's very sort of anarchic in parts film about we follow all these young record store employees as they try and come to terms with different parts of their lives and the fact that they all might be losing their jobs.
Yeah, it's very character driven, isn't it?
Yeah, there's that's one of the issues. There's too many characters in this film.
Well, we'll come on to that in a second. So, Adam, I'll start with yourself. Adam, had you seen it before we?
No, I hadn't seen it, hadn't heard of it. So,
what did you kind of think it was going to be going in?
I just thought it'd either be about a record store, like a High Fidelity type thing, or I thought it would be kind of like the making of this record company
Oh,
called
right.
Empire Records. I
Yeah.
thought it'd be one of those two things.
Right. And yourself, Al, had you seen it before?
I'd never seen it. I'd never heard of it. But is there a TV show called Empire?
Yeah.
Yes.
And is it about music?
Yeah, it's about a record label, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I think it's about. It's got.
Yeah.
It's got Terrence Howard
I've
in it.
never
I think.
seen it.
Is that the
But
one with 50 Cent? Or is that Power?
No, I think
That's Get
Power.
Rich or Die Trying, the 50 Cent film.
Which I saw on its opening day.
What?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I once saw 50 Cent in concert at Leeds Festival, and my mate, Green Day were the headliners, 50 Cent were on just before Green Day.
That's
And
dated, isn't it?
my mate wanted to be at the front for Green Day, so I had to sit through 50 Cent, and 50 Cent got bottled, so my mate got a lot of bottles to the back of his head. And then as soon as Green Day came on stage, there was a rush forward, and he got sort of crushed against the barrier, and he basically came back to us at the campsite and had the lines of the barriers on his chest.
God.
So that's my 50 Cent anecdote.
Well, we've all got one. Adam went to see Get Rich or Die Trying.
But I knew it wasn't that, but I couldn't get that out of my head. So I just assumed it was maybe a
So you
film.
thought it was like a record label?
Yeah.
Or its spin-off. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. I thought it was just something to do with that, even though I knew it was something separate. So, but yeah, I'd never heard of it, or anything.
From my own point of view, I had heard of it, and I think I knew it was about a record store, but that was it. I didn't really know who was in it. I didn't know though very much about it. I looked at the poster and the kind of little, like you say, when I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it has the little synopsis kind of thing, and immediately thought same as you, Adam, high fidelity, and I also thought like Clerks.
Yeah.
Like the Kevin Smith film
Yeah.
Clerks, and I also thought like Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
Have you
it's
seen
got a
that?
lot
Yeah.
of. It's got.
It's got a lot of the same
two
actors in it, yeah. Which
the guy who plays Lucas, he's in Dazed and
Yes,
Confused.
and Renée
Yeah.
Zellweger,
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
guy
yeah,
that
of
plays
course,
Eddie in Empire Records is in Dazed and
Which
Confused as well.
ones?
Eddie's one of the worst characters in Empire Records.
Is he the one who makes the brownies?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So kind of back to the film then, Adam. What did you think of the film?
Yeah, I liked it. I think like you say, with there being too many characters, certain things get a little glossed over.
Yeah.
Because there was a few relationships I wanted to see a bit more of, like Joe and Lucas. Like, there's the mention of I think did you say he meets him when he met him when he was 13?
And he's like on the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah,
type
I kind of
thing,
wanted to
yeah.
go more into their relationship and see what that really was. And there was another relationship with Joe and Jane, Rex Manning's
Yes.
like assistant.
Oh,
Like, it
yeah,
seems like they
yeah.
know each other, but it never really gets explained
No.
how they know
There's
each other.
so
or why.
much of that, I think, in this
So,
film.
do you want me to tell you why that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, yeah,
So,
yeah.
40 minutes of the film got cut out from the original edit, and so I think a lot of that is why Jane and Joe get quite close, and why because her decision to leave Rex Manning seems to be very abrupt and
Really?
sudden.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
I think more goes into that. I think more goes into Burko, who's the sort of musician character. More goes into his character development, and I think more goes into Eddie's character development as well. But because you lose so much of that, it feels like I kind of get what the point of Jane is, because you got to see that even people that know Rex Manning hate Rex Manning.
Yeah.
But the point with Burko is sort of lost, because you get his relationship with Deborah touched on slightly, but nothing. He sort of appears right at the start when Corey and Renée Zellweger's character, whose name's escaping me, Gina, he pops out of it like a cabin round the back of the record store and then disappears until Deb shows up.
Yeah.
And Eddie is just the absolute worst character in this film, because I don't see what the point of him is. He offers absolutely nothing to the entire film. He gives Mark the brownies, like you say, and that's it. I think that's basically his entire character.
Yeah.
He goes to talk to Corey because he works at a pizza shop as well, but that's really, and he's obsessed with vinyl, and that's all you get from Eddie. And I don't really see what the point of his character is. But yeah, there was 40 minutes of footage cut out of the original edit, which I think contains a lot of those relationships.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that you already told us a little bit of what you like and what you didn't. So why did you pick this film?
Good question. So basically, when you asked me to come on, you invited me to come on, I knew I had to pick what was an underrated film.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm basically going to go through a whole bunch of films that I didn't pick now. So I thought back to what my favourite films were, and then realised that I just like a lot of rated films. So Seven, which is one of my favourites, Usual Suspects, V for Vendetta,
brilliant.
Little Miss Sunshine, Shawshank Redemption, obviously. probably verges on the over rated point. Green Mile, different things like that are obviously rated. And then I thought about other films. There's other films that I like which are categorically awful and are not rated because they are bad films. So Goal, which was one of the ones I thought about. So I've like not seen the Godfather trilogy, but I've seen the Goal trilogy, and I've not seen Jaws, but I've seen like Sharknado. So like Sharknado was another one. So then I sort of came to what are like more culty films. But then there's cult films that actually have like a wider reach and more influence. So This Is Spinal Tap was one of the ones I thought about. But it's like it had a massive influence. The Princess Bride as well has a massive outside influence. And so I came to sort of shrunk it down and came to choice of 3, which were Empire Records, which obviously I ended up picking, Stranger Than Fiction, which is the Will Ferrell film, and then The Great Muppet Caper, which is, I love the Muppets, and I think that's the most underrated Muppet film. But again, Great Muppet Caper was quite influential in certain aspects, especially in terms of puppetry and things like that. So I rolled that out, and then I looked at IMDb, and it turns out that Stranger Than Fiction is quite highly rated on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and things like that, whereas Empire Records isn't. And Empire Records sort of covers a lot of, like, it's very, very, very 90s. And it's
90s,
very driven by music, and I adore music. I adore 90s music and grunge music in particular. And I remember watching this film when I was about 14 or 15 for the first time. I think some people at school, obviously with older siblings, might have found it, and we watched it. And it's a bit like Breakfast Club in that it has so many people with different backgrounds, and you can relate to different characters. And so as a younger person, I sort of found sort of, they like 90s music. They were working at a record store, and I think if you love music, you want to work in a record. You want to be in a band, or you want to work. If you can't be in a band, you want to work in a record store. And these people were sort of in bands and working in record stores, and I absolutely adored it. And yeah, it's just. There's parts of it that I absolutely adore. There's characters in that film that I absolutely adore. And like I've said with Eddie in particular, and same with Burko sort of, and a couple of others, there's characters in that film that I despise because they're not really sort of fleshed out quite in the same way that they should have done. But Empire Records is probably the most... I can appreciate now that why it got such bad scores on some of these things, and why the critics didn't quite rate it in quite the way that I would have if I was, trying to review this film as a 15-year-old. But it was, I really, I still really like it, but there's parts of it as watching it with sort of older eyes now that I don't particularly like. But I think that's if I watched any of these films, I would have, with a critical eye of coming on a podcast to discuss it further, I would have found fault in pretty much any film apart from The Muppets.
It's funny, we've had this similar conversation before, haven't we? Because we started this to do underrated films, then it became underseen and underrated, and then it became underrated, underseen, and then we just want to talk about this one. So it's not we do pick whatever, and it's quite we've revisited a lot of films that have been I love this when it came out. Classic one being Austin Powers, which I love this when I was 15 or whatever, and now we revisit it. So it is interesting, and I think the baggage that you take with a film goes a long way. Like if you watched it at a certain time in your life, you can then go back and be like, this is very good, like, or this is good, whatever. I think that can count a lot towards influencing your overall opinion of the film. So it is quite interesting. So would you say that when you've gone back and rewatched it, you haven't enjoyed it as much?
No, because there's still some bits that I absolutely like crack up about every single time I've watched them. Like, still make me laugh. Lucas in particular just has me in stitch because he's so dry, and there's a bit where he says, AJ goes and speaks to him, and he's like, "What's wrong with you? Yesterday you were normal, and today you're the Chinese guy from the Karate Kid." Because Lucas obviously just has this complete air of something about him, and he's just coming out with nonsense. But he has some great lines in the film. There's a bit where Mitchell Beck first turns up, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Lucas, I work here." And then they revisit that when at the end of the film when Mitchell turns up to sort of get his money, and he's like, "I'm Lucas, I still work here," which makes me laugh. And then AJ has a really good line where he's gluing the quarters to the floor, and Warren, who hopefully we'll talk about because he's brilliant, Warren's trying to pick them back off the floor, and he's like, "Why are they glued to the floor?" And AJ just goes, "I don't need to explain my art to you," which still just makes me laugh. But it didn't really, there's lots of bits where I think I'd forgotten about it, and then watching it irritated me. I've got it on my notes. I counted, and there's 9 separate occasions in the film where they just dance. they put us. I get it's a film about a record shop, and so there's going to be a lot of music in the film. But there's 9 separate incidents. This isn't including the bit where Deborah shaves her head, because I'm classing that as a montage, and the music's just incidentally taking place. And the bit don't remember if there's a bit where AJ plays Rex Manning over the loudspeaker to dance with Deb. I can't remember if I counted that as a montage or not, but there's 9 separate bits where they just dance.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? And one of the critiques of the film that I found was that it was a film made to sell a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because
I saw that.
there's over 50 songs in the film,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of agree
And
with
half
that
of them
bit as
are
well.
more than half of them are absolutely dire
Yeah.
songs. There's a couple, Girl Like You Before, which is a good song.
Yeah.
The Video Killed the Radio Star is a good song.
Yeah.
A couple of Cranberry songs that I
Yes,
think are
there's
quite
2 really good Cranberry songs in there.
What's the AC/DC one called?
I can't remember what AC/DC.
That's quite a good one. The one that they
There's
do in
Ploughed by Sponge, which is an absolutely amazing song, which is when they're getting ready for the big fundraiser at the end.
Yeah.
That plays, and that's like, speaking as a 90s grunge fan, that is an absolutely amazing film. It's not even on the official soundtrack that they released on CD, and it would have been brilliant. But yeah, there's like those music breaks where they just dance. They didn't need to be 9 of them.
There's a lot of like, I'm going to put a record on, and then someone puts a CD on, and then they all just sing along to everything.
But there's a bit
Yeah.
right at the start of the film where I think when they're just first opening up, and Mark, who I also hate as a character, Mark puts a song on the record player, and they all sing along to it when they're opening the shop. And they're all having a good time, and then AJ turns it off, and he's like, "This is rubbish." It's like, you've just been dancing and singing along to it.
Loved it.
Yeah, you could have fleshed out Burko's character in that time, or
Yeah.
told me who the hell Eddie is meant to be. But no, you dance along to it, and then he burns the CD, and it's like, it's absolutely pointless. But there's a lot of good music in that film, and obviously you have to expect a certain degree of music in the film.
Yeah.
The soundtrack for me is up there, maybe even the thing that I like the most about the film. I think it has got a really good. It did remind me of like a High Fidelity, like it's or even like School of Rock. Like it's a really good soundtrack. There's not many soundtracks I've been out and bought, but I would buy this one if we didn't live in an age of streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So what did you like about it, Adam? What was the what did you take away from it? What did you like?
You know what I liked about it? I think we live in a time now where we do like a lot of these like 24-hour films that that don't have like a happy ending. They just kind of his 24-hour
Yeah.
slice of life.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see a film that had like the happy ending of they
yeah.
save the record store, the guy gets the girl, everyone's friends.
There's
And I
a
did
big
like the
gig.
I did like the sort of heartwarming kind of cheesiness of it, because
I
you don't really
agree,
see
yeah.
that as much now.
I agree. That was one of my notes. Just says I just like the fact that at the end they all sing
It
and
all
dance
works
again.
out. Yeah.
they all go on the roof
Yeah.
and dance.
Yeah.
They all.
I didn't think I counted that as a dance. That's 10
They
dances.
all piss the neighbours off. Hey, what about you, Al?
It's funny you say there's like an extra 40 minutes of the film. I don't know if I could
Cope.
cope with it. Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree.
I liked how gloriously 90s it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm allowed to praise that because it was just in the 90s anyway.
No,
So,
it's such a punch of nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah.
The haircuts,
Oh, yeah.
the
But, like,
clothes. He calls the insults. Joe
Clothes are great, by the
Joe
way.
calls someone a
Banana.
banana head.
Calls
And I-
himself a banana.
Oh, does
head.
it? And
Yeah.
I was watching it going, that's what? Like, banana head.
Yeah.
He had incredibly 90s hair, didn't he?
Joe
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Big old white shirt.
Well, I read when I was doing the background on it, and it's like each character is meant to represent a different sort of musicality part of the era. So AJ is very grunge.
Yeah.
Lucas is obviously all in black, very, I say,
Paul
Jesus,
Simon
or
and
Jesus
Yeah.
and Mary chain almost.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Burko's like a punk, and then Eddie's a stoner, and then Mark sort of doesn't know what he wants to be. Joe's sort of a bit more old fashioned, Deb's gothy, and then the 2 girls are sort of poppy and
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I think they did put a sort of thought process into it, and then Rex Manning's sort of like the old fashioned one that none of them want to be.
Yeah.
And I think Burko, they wanted Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day to
Oh,
be
right.
the original
Oh, right.
Burko. But he was touring, I think, can't remember if it came out after or just before Nimrod.
Yeah, it's around
if you know
that
your Green Day
time,
stuff. I think it came out around the time they were recording or touring that. So he couldn't do it. So they got Coyote Shivers, who was Liv Tyler's stepdad. And he lied about his age to get the part. So he was considerably older than all the rest. Like the guy that plays Mark was 16 and and Liv Tyler was 17 or 18. And then
Yeah, they're all
Coyote
very
Shivers
young,
must be like touching 40, which I think would be about the same age that Anthony LaPaglia, who plays Joe, would have been.
Yeah.
But I think 41. I think I saw it was when they made it. It's quite funny. I've not seen Anthony LaPaglia in that much other than this. I think he was in one of the like Criminal Minds, or
he was in a program called Without a Trace.
That's it. Sorry,
which I
Without
used
a
to
Trace.
absolutely
I watched
love.
a lot of that.
But I was watching it going, it's like they really wanted a Baldwin.
Yeah,
And they couldn't get a Baldwin, so it was like, who sounds and looks a bit like one of the Baldwin brothers? Anthony Paglia.
At first glance, I thought it was a Baldwin.
He does look like a
okay,
Baldwin. Even more so now, I think he looks like a Baldwin.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's the raspy kind of voice in the Blue Eyes, isn't it? But one of the big things I liked about the film was the cast, and one of the things that, like you've said, that is a bit of a flaw is that it struggles to balance everything. But I do think in terms of the performances, every actor does the best they can with the small amount
because
that
I
they're
think
given.
a lot of the characters, in my opinion, were quite one-dimensional.
yes.
And maybe that's because of the extra 40 minutes that we need to sort of flesh them out a little bit more. I thought it was a little bit slow, and like a lot of the characters I couldn't really get into.
So I think the character I think I like the most. I like Lucas. I like Warren.
I like Lucas. Yeah,
I like
Warren.
Lucas. Warren is amazing when he comes into it. I really like Deb as well, who's played by Robin Tunney.
Robin Tunney, yeah.
Who went on to be in The Craft. Yeah, really like the character of Deb. I like the fact that she's obviously got issues, but they never say why particularly.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the fact that they don't apportion any blame to anyone. Burko obviously comes to speak to her and suggests that is it him? And she never says it's him. Joe goes to speak to her and she mentions that she's not seen her mother for quite a while, but they never say that that's the reason why she's having all these issues. And I like the fact that they leave it up in the air, because that doesn't, anyone that's watching that film and relates to Deb in a particular way doesn't then have the same sort of reaction that they have the same issues that she has, because you never know what issues she has. And I think that's almost quite a responsible thing of the film, whether they did it on purpose or by accident. I think it was quite a responsible thing for them to do. The irresponsible thing for them to do with my mental health advocate and thing on the head was the fact that she undoes the bandages and shows everyone the scars. I think that's quite I think we're talking as 2010s when this was made in the 90s. I think it's looking with a more modern mindset. I think that was an irresponsible thing for them to do. But it's all part of the fact that, she almost takes the mick out of the fact of, her own issues, which I think is quite good. But I like her character in particular. I don't think, when I first watched it, I don't think I particularly liked Deb, because I was a young, 15-year-old man, and I think it's hard for you to relate to, someone that's having issues that are alien to you, especially someone of a different gender. So I think I'm relating much more to Lucas and AJ when I first watched it. But I really, really like the character of Deb. Really like Lucas because he's such I wrote in my notes when I was watching it, he's the uncoolest cool character I think I've ever seen. He's there in a black turtleneck, he's very pale. He looks like
as well.
He looks like he'd, watch very art house films and listen to Belle and Sebastian and things like that. But yeah, he is very cool and very funny and very dry and very witty, and I really like that about it.
Did either of you guys have a favourite character? Like we said, there's millions of them.
There's plenty to choose from.
Lucas it was definitely my favourite, just his delivery of the lines as well, and like very odd character, I think.
I really like Joe. I think he was my favourite character. I think it was nice. A lot of them have this kind of like youthful hope. Yeah. And I think he's so not that at the same time. And I think it was nice having that, especially watching it at the age I am now. It was nice seeing that difference, because I feel like I'm somewhere in between those two things right now. And it's interesting to see, I was like that. I'm going to be like this soon.
I quite liked, I actually quite liked AJ for a similar reason of his youthful optimism. And I also quite liked Gina. And I don't know if that's just because I thought Renee Zellweger was gave quite a stand-up performance in certain bits, but I thought she was quite good. I thought it's interesting you talking about Deb and the issues that raise. I think it does quite a good job in the film of raising a couple of issues around that might affect people of that age, but not hitting you over the head with it. So it mentions her mental health. It mentions Liv Tyler's character being under a lot of stress to get into a really good school.
But I think one of the things about Corey, which is Liv Tyler's character, they sort of pull that she is taking pills out of nowhere towards the end of the film, and then just disappears again. And I think that's another one of the things I didn't like. And the fact that Gina suddenly wants to be in a band. They push that right at the end of the film. Never gets mentioned before. And that Mark wants to be in a band as well, but then that doesn't really get any sort of answers.
AJ wants to go to art school, which you've only really heard from, he's just gluing some coins to the...
Like, you occasionally see, I think it does get said that all the paintings that you see on the wall in the background, he's done, and you see him painting... Corey goes to try and speak to him at one point after she's failed to seduce, or unsuccessfully / unwittingly or unwantingly seduced Rex Manning. She goes to try and speak to AJ because he's tried to confess his love for her, and he's painting again. He's doing an angry painting.
Again, 90s.
Angry painting. You just see him doing really aggressive flicks of red
angry
paint.
colour.
So I think there's a lot of stuff that just pops up out of nowhere and then just doesn't get mentioned again. Which is really frustrating. But there's something about it.
You could make a TV series out of it.
Yeah,
I think you could do a TV series and do like each
deal with each
character.
It's a different.
That'd be a good way of getting more out of it. A little bit like, completely differently, but in the same way that they did with Lost. Before it all got confusing and
they sort of do it with Orange is the New Black as well.
That's true.
They focus on sort of one character thing. But another thing that got me was how is an independent record shop that big?
Massive, isn't it? It's absolutely massive.
Huge.
Yeah, it's like a block of flats or something. It's like enormous, isn't it?
Used to be a bathroom and bidet store before
You'd think it was a car showroom from the...
It is absolutely, and I can't I remember when record stores were quite a big thing. Growing up in Preston, we had at 1.5 of them. I think
we grew up in similar, quite close to each other. So I know what you mean.
And then I remember one by one they disappeared. So I remember, but they were all very small. Especially there's one in Preston called Action Records, which is still there, and that's the independent one. Really small and really, really out of town. So quite how this huge record store was surviving, I'll never know, and have that many staff and open till midnight.
There's a lot of staff, wasn't there?
He's got 30 staff or something. It's but the ample perfect record shop size represented in a film is probably High Fidelity for me. That's like small shop. Realistic. Dusty, lots of, but not this. This is like a hotel that sells records.
Got a living room in the back.
Their like break room is so massive. And it's staircase up to his office.
It's got other rooms in the back room. So there's the one with the printer. There's another room where the toilet where Deb goes to shave her head. Deb after that delivers one of the best lines, which is there's still some in the sink if you want to glue it to AJ while he's gluing the coins to the floor. But it is absolutely huge. There's an upstairs to it, which we don't really see apart from someone's up the stairs at one point and walking back down again, which is where all the listening booths are, I think, are upstairs.
There's like people kissing and crying to music.
And there's a bit where they're filming on the staircase and the roof looks like it's really...
It's another 2 floors.
It's really high up.
Because
it's a warehouse.
Lucas jumps down from that when we when
he's trying to catch the... he's trying to catch the shoplifter.
When AJ's trying to find Lucas on the instructions of Joe, AJ's walking back into the back room. And Lucas drops down behind him, and it's like, that's a big jump.
Shatters his ankles, and that's why he sat on a sofa for the rest of the film.
Those listening booths are a real blast from the past. I remember in Borders, when they used to have those, you could go put headphones on and like listen to a few different albums. It's so bizarre to think that was a thing now.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
See, I've never. I like music, but I've never been one to like go to a record store and listen to music.
Listening posts as well, because there's a bit where in one of the many dance breaks, as we've touched on, Mark goes and tickles a girl's feet while she's listening to something at one of the listening posts as well. I hate Mark.
Is Mark the one that's played by Ethan?
Embry? No.
Ethan Embry, but he changed his name, so he's
afterwards.
called something else in Ethan something in this, and he's got blonde hair and he's young.
Got orangey blonde hair.
Why do
wears
you
an
hate him
orange
so
t-shirt.
much?
He's just very irritating, and I don't see any point to him.
No, he doesn't do anything.
He's
I
there.
thought
He
that.
has quite a lot of big scenes as well. Like there's a bit where he bizarrely goes round the back of the shop and kisses a massive picture of Gloria Estefan.
Oh yeah,
and rubs himself up on it. And we've
all been there.
There's the weird scene where he obviously eats the brownie made by Eddie, and then Gwar appear from nowhere, and then he imagines that he's in Gwar, and Gwar are a really horrible, awful band to begin with.
Is that the one that's like the heavy metal lordy type people?
Yes.
And I'm showing my age. Is
So-
that the one with the guitars?
Gwar, like there's about 30 members of Gwar.
I didn't even know they were a real band.
Yeah, and they all dress up in weird outfits, as obviously you can see, and puppetry and different things like that, and they're awful, absolutely terrible. Yeah, but Mark, he has the big thing where he's the one that comes up with the idea of the fundraiser at the end, which is his big.
He goes on telly.
Yeah, basically he says, "I saw the shoplifter shooting up the shop," but basically we're having a fundraiser here tonight. That's his big moment. But all his other moments throughout the rest of the film are just really. I don't understand why he wants to be in this band.
I don't like the little laugh he does as well. Like he'll be just doing nothing and then just go.
He is
from nowhere.
Immensely irritating. And that's to say I don't like. Yeah. Eddie's a bit part character, and my dislike for him is that he isn't really fleshed out very much, which isn't his, character's fault. There was probably more of him, but Mark is very much fleshed out in that film, but just really badly.
Yeah,
there's no way he'd get a job there.
I don't understand why he doesn't freak out when he's watching himself get eaten by Gwar. I don't know why he just laughs. Like, would you not freak out? I don't understand why he doesn't freak
Being
out.
eaten by a plant.
That was his moment to do something other than laugh.
Yeah.
He's just very, very, very annoying. But he's also, if I was in that film, I would have been Mark at 16. I think maybe that's why I have such a dislike for him.
Now you've mentioned it, he was really fucking annoying, wasn't he? What did you guys think of Rex Manning?
I quite liked. Again, I wanted to see him take a bigger piece in the puzzle. I think.
Oh, I quite like the way they used him sparingly.
Yeah, I wanted more of him, but I quite liked that. I would have liked to play him.
I think they nailed.
Yeah, I would have liked.
Is that if you could play anyone?
If I could play anyone,
Actually, to be fair, that's probably a good shout because he's
a bit. He's
so
not a nice
cheesy.
person, is he? And he can't deal with his own
it's that
fall from
downfall,
grace.
Yeah. He is to a T. Like they do a proper good job of making him like a Robert Palmer style 80s throwback to, even the way he's dancing in the video that they did, in the way that he's dressed, it's very Robert Palmer, very bit Duran Duran.
I'll have no disrespect of Duran Duran.
Oh no,
I
will. I mean, in terms of the way the video is done.
Yeah,
it's very
soft.
It's
focus.
more Robert Palmer
on a beach with like a breeze and stuff.
Yeah,
but I like the character of Rex Manning is horrible, and I hate the scenes with Gina and with Corey. I find them very awkward, and I guess it's supposed to make you feel awkward
with him and Corey.
I think it's supposed to make you feel awkward, especially sort of looking back now and what we know about musicians from that era and things like that. I think they addressed that quite well in that he was a horrible person, like you say, washed up and trying to hold on to those last fragments of fame that he had.
Yeah.
But he, the way that has as an actor, I think he's played very well. As someone to take the mick out of, and as a fall guy, he's really good. I like the fact that he walks in and he says his hair's been done wrong. And it's like you watch the video of where his hair's meant to be good, and personally, I can't really tell the difference.
That is a good. I think Maxwell Caulfield is really good as well, who I've only ever seen in Grease 2.
Yeah, that's why. I think maybe that's why he got the job, because he's like a throwback to a throwback to a throwback.
And I know he's been or is in or has been in Casualty.
Has he?
Yeah, but I think he might have less hair now.
Ironically.
But I like. I keep saying it, so I'm going to need to talk about Warren, because Warren, who's not even his actual name.
He's obviously Warren. He takes the name of Warren Beatty, doesn't he? He's a bit Beatty.
He is my favourite character in the entire film.
Considering he's the youngest actor.
Yeah,
I think he acts better than some of the other older actors. I think he gives a really good performance, and I've not really seen him in anything else.
No,
but he is good. So what is it you like? What is it you're itching to talk about? Warren?
He has so many of the good moments in the film, so many of the good lines. I think he sort of embodies everything that all the other characters molded into one character almost. That he's obviously troubled. He obviously wants to come and work at this record store. He obviously just doesn't know how to vocalize how he's feeling a lot of the time. And I think he's all the others merged into one. And the fact that Lucas sees himself in him, Deb isn't scared of him, Joe takes pity on him in the end, and he gets what he wants, albeit via shoplifting and threatening people with a gun. He gets his I work at Empire Records little badge. And just there's a moment where he's forced to have his photograph taken with all the CDs that he attempted to steal, just as the moment Rex Manning walks in. So he has his photo with Rex Manning instead. And there's just moments where like he's holding these CDs up and Rex Manning's doing all this cheesy, obviously, choreographed poses. And just Warren's is just brilliant. I can't really.
I think of all the arcs of characters, all the journeys, if you will, his is one of my favourite. I like the idea he goes from being like a bit of a little shit, but then they explore why he's like that, and then he's part of that big happy ending. Yeah, and I quite like that about it.
I like the fact that Mitchell Beck, right at the end, when it's all going off and having the big party, is put on the guy that initially owns Empire Records is put on the tills. Doesn't know how to do anything because he's like a man upstairs, a suit, or the man, damn the man, sort of whole thing is about him. And he's there trying to put stuff through. And then he's like, does anybody work here? And then Warren appears. And he's got his little badge and he has this little grin on his face that he's got everything he wanted.
It's a lovely little payoff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lovely little moment. Yeah. One thing I read, there's a musical coming next year.
Really?
Apparently they're making it a musical. Like everything else is a musical.
But I can see that being a good musical.
Yeah,
I can see that being.
There's obviously a lot of music involved. It's the same as School of Rock, as you said, that adapted well to Rock of Ages and things like that. It adapted well to the stage because there is a lot of music, and whether they can get the rights to a lot of this. Music.
I think the key to a good musical is good music almost comes first.
Yeah.
I think there are adaptations of films into musicals where the music isn't that strong or the plot doesn't necessarily translate, whereas this literally is made for a musical. I mean, there's already 9 or 10 dance breaks, as you noticed. So you don't even really have to change much of putting an interval in there.
Yeah.
Who would you go up for that, Al?
I'd go for that. Yeah.
Rex Manning.
I would love to play Rex Manning. I would. I'm too young though, aren't I?
I don't know, just put some fake tan on you.
I don't think Maxwell Caulfield is that much older than. I think he's what do you reckon he is at this point? Maybe in his mid-30s, but they make him look about 50 with the
they give him a big tan in it, but they leave like sort of white,
undone.
Non-tanned, which was quite funny.
Yeah. Well, moving on to anything that you guys, obviously Adam and Al, is there anything you kind of dislike that Johnny's not already mentioned?
Yeah, I've already said it before, but I did think it was kind of slow.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt myself drifting out a little bit, but there was a lot of characters to get to know, and because I think it's 1 hour 43,
something like that.
It's too many characters to get to know in a relatively short space amount of time. But yeah, they're my two grievances.
What about yourself, Adam?
Yeah, quite similar. I enjoyed it. But there was just those elements that I just wish they'd gone into a little bit further. Some of like the issues, particularly Liv Tyler's character with the pills, like especially because I thought her character and Renee Zellweger's character, they got a lot of screen time. I thought they were really great together.
Yeah,
but I just would have liked to have seen a little bit more about that.
I really like their argument.
Yeah,
their argument where she reveals that she's addicted to amphetamine or whatever
really
it is.
Interesting. I thought it was one of the best,
really good scene.
Yeah.
I agree a little bit with the character thing. I think it's almost like what they could have done with doing is maybe having 4 good fleshed out characters, then surround them with comedy characters. Joe, Liv Tyler, Gina. Pick 4 of them and flesh them out really well. But there are certain ones that it's just like, I don't have time for this particular character.
Eddie and Mark.
Yeah, those two.
Eddie and Mark.
I thought it started really well. I thought it was a really strong start, faltered a little bit, then picked up again.
Well, I think the thing about the start is that it was supposed to start with Lucas waking up on the motorbike. Was the original idea when AJ and Mark show up for their morning shift. But the suits that decided this sort of thing wanted more of a background. So that's why it starts with him counting the money, him going to Atlantic City. So you basically get told the entire thing, that the whole reason this has happened, basically gets fed to you rather than you picking it up throughout the film. So that start is quite bad, especially the fact that Gina walks in while Lucas is counting the money and says, "Don't screw it up." And it's like, at that point, you know, he's going to screw it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you've
Yeah.
basically been told what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the start, if it had started with him just awake on the motorbike, it could have been a bit better. But there are he breaks the fourth wall in that intro.
That's
as
one
well.
of the questions I had for you, which we do some like questions at the end about the film. Do you think he is self-aware?
I don't know, because I don't know if he's
twice.
talking to himself. Like where he says, "I don't know, will I be held responsible for this?" Is he talking to us, the viewer, or is he talking to himself? Is
funny,
he breaking
isn't it?
the fourth wall or not? It's like when Mark does it a couple of times, looks directly into the camera to deliver his lines. And is he talking to us, or is he just talking out loud to himself? And the character,
I think it's strange. I think what gives it away is there's nothing wrong with facing the camera and looking past it.
Yeah.
But they're looking at the camera, so they're looking at you, so you're almost catching their gaze, if that's possible.
Yeah.
So I think that is what gives the illusion that they're breaking the fourth wall. But something else I did like about it was that it was almost like a play. It had a very sorry to be a bit of a wanky ex-drama student, but a bit of a waiting for Godot. Yeah. You know what I was going to say that. Kind of feel about it, of the waiting for almost, I suppose, Rex Manning character. And it's almost like each character I could see how this could be adapted really well as a musical, but as a play as well, in that they could all monologue. And that way you get a little bit more exposition from the characters straight to the audience, and maybe that would flesh it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
I think particularly with song as well. I think the thing with musicals is you can sing things that you couldn't really say in dialogue. And I think that could be something that they work in well in turning it into a musical.
But we're moving on to kind of questions. I think we have covered a lot of them. Was there anything you've kind of picked up on? Was there anything you would change about it, Johnny? Cut Mark out completely.
Cut a lot of you touched on it earlier, cut a lot of the other characters out. And then really make the other characters a lot more fleshed out and better. So there's plenty. You could get rid of Eddie, specific first and foremost, because he adds absolutely nothing to the whole proceedings. He doesn't add any comedy, he doesn't add any sort of the drama that you need, and you know, part of the main storyline he has no real involvement with. Mark you could probably get rid of as well because he's annoying. But and then if you got rid of a lot of the 10 dance, breaks where they're just walking around playing air guitar, and Lucas does an excellent impression of Mick Jagger at one point as well when Joe's playing the drums, and Warren just gets up to mosh. But if you cut some of those out, you've got plenty more time to flesh out the good characters that are in the film.
What about yourself, Adam?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And what you were saying before about the intro, I would have found that so much more interesting had they not given us all that information.
If you didn't know that he'd gone and gambled the money away.
And sort of the first moment of us knowing that the record store might be sold is when he brings the boxes out. That would have been a really heavy hitting moment. But as soon as you see the box, you just think, I know exactly what's coming.
Spoon feeds you that a little bit at the beginning, doesn't it? I suppose.
Definitely feeds too much. Like if he was just walking around, because he's walking around with his pot of quarters that he's obviously got in Atlantic City as well, which he wakes up with on the bike. It's like, well, why has he got them? Why did he go to Atlantic City? Because he doesn't reveal to AJ and Mark when they show up why he went or what he did. He just drives off and says, I don't regret what I did, only those things I didn't do. And it's like, well, what has he done then? But you've already been spoon-fed a good 10 minutes.
What about yourself, Al?
Yeah, we've covered everything. Sort of the main things about there being too many characters. I think it was a little bit slow. Also, the argument against this is, I suppose, it's part of his character, but I didn't feel like Lucas showed enough remorse or guilt about.
I think he's meant to be a bit spacey, though, isn't he? I was just trying to. At first, because I was watching it, making notes, planning, and all that sort of stuff, I wasn't entirely sure what he'd actually done. I don't know if that's because I've missed it or it's tight or whatever. And then I realised, oh no, he was trying to. Because at first I wasn't too sure. Oh, he's trying to save it by taking the takings. I thought he'd just like maybe lost it a little bit and taken the takings, but then I realised as it went on that he was trying to save the store. So, but I know what you mean. Like there is a kind of spacey lack of remorse.
And I get that's part of the character, but in real life,
get out of my massive shop.
It's a really weird scene where Joe grabs him and has like a weird pretend fight with him inside.
Is that what he
the
does?
Door closed.
He throws him against a few things.
Yeah.
Like throws him against the door, throws him against the wall, and throws him back out. And he's got a tiny little bump on his head, which Joe then comes and salves straight away. Because I think Joe, he does. He's very. He's a father figure, obviously, for a lot of them, but I think he's very compassionate and very to all of them.
Understanding.
Like he goes to find Deb and speak to Deb quite well. Obviously, you know his background with Lucas. Sort of does the same with Warren, even though I think he's got other stuff going on. His understanding when Corey absolutely loses it. And then his understanding when Gina comes out the room with Rex Manning and is like, I haven't sacked anyone today. Why would I start with you?
Yeah, I liked that.
So I think Joe's very compassionate and understanding. I think he obviously had to have that fight as a sort of, like you say, did he actually have one or was he just faking it? To sort of make his mark and sort of stress his not alphaness over them all, but sort of stress that he was the boss.
So we'll come on to the critical reception now, where we decide where it sits in the pantheon of underrated, underseen, what it is. To give you an idea of where it sits on IMDb, it's got a 6.7 on Empire Records and a 84% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. Have a guess what you think the critical score is on Rotten Tomatoes?
I would have said quite high, but the fact that you've asked me
give it away there.
Low. I'm going to go 30%.
Adam?
I would go 55.
It's 29%. That's such a massive discrepancy between audience and critics.
See, I thought it would have been the other way around. I thought the critics would have loved it and maybe the audience scored low.
What's that? That's over 50%. Drop. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think I'd say it's both underrated and underseen because it was a film I hadn't even heard of.
Yeah.
So for me, and I did enjoy the film, so I would say underrated and underseen as well.
Al?
I'm sorry, Johnny. I wasn't
You look
keen
so
on it.
guilty.
I know. Every time I've said it, I've sort of looked at Johnny like,
the film.
No.
It's fine.
When you're writing the film in 1994, right?
I would say underseen because it's got a lovely 90s vibe to it. But I think from the audience rating perspective, overrated.
I disagree with you. I think I'm with Adam. I think it's underseen and underrated. I think it's again, we don't put numbers on stuff, but I do think the fact that none of us had seen it and we were both between us, we've seen a lot of heard of it but not seen a lot of it.
Yeah.
Having rewatched it, Johnny, what do you think? What are you gonna go for?
I still say it's underrated, and I still think it's one of the. If I was to meet someone new and they ask what sort of films that you like, I think it's one of the ones that sum up a lot of what I like in terms of both music and film and things like that. And I think it is so nostalgic in watching it back that I would still say it was underrated. I completely overrate it, and from a personal perspective, I can appreciate that. But getting panned by the critics in that way, I can appreciate that from what we've spoken about here, why they would not like it.
What we've said before, isn't it, is that I think in order to tell whether it's underrated or not, you have to visit how it was received. This was really poorly received, and it definitely didn't deserve the panning it got. I think that time has been quite kind to this film, and if you look back at it, I enjoyed this more than this might be controversial, I enjoyed this more than both Dazed and Confused and Clerks. That's not to say I didn't like them, but I thought this was better. I preferred it.
But I think we say it's been well received by audiences, but when it was released, it wasn't either, because I think it made less than $500,000.
Oh yeah, it was
it was a box office
critical
flop.
and commercial failure. Yeah,
and the production company turned down Clueless to make this, and then Clueless was like 90 million at the box office. So yeah,
you love a box office number, don't you, mate?
So that's a good 89.5 million difference.
That's mad.
At the box office. So, but I think it found its audience eventually. I think they scaled it back when they released it, and it probably didn't reach those people that wanted to see it or would have appreciated it. But by the time it came around to general release VHS and later on DVD streaming now, I think it's a lot more better received.
Well, that's 3-1, I'm afraid. I think we're calling it an underrated one.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, watching it, I do like. I love the nostalgia of all the '90s thing, but I had to take that to one side and just, be a bit harsh. Apparently,
we'll call it underrated. So we'll move on to this week's game. We usually do a game where the winner picks next week's film. However, obviously, we'll just do it just for fun this week. You do a lot of tweeting about football.
Yep.
And we all do quite like football. I bloody love football.
Bloody love
Leeds are
football,
doing well. So I come up with the game called footballer or actor.
Okay.
So I'll name a footballer or actor. You tell me which one they are. If someone's done a bit of both, just whatever they're primarily known for.
Okay.
So, for example, if I say Brad Pitt, I'll...
Footballer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That famous place for wolves.
Wolves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, obviously actor. If I say Harry Kane.
Footballer.
So I'll go around. We'll take it. You can all tell me which the person is.
Okay.
Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, he was in Escape to Victory, wasn't he?
But is he primarily an actor?
yeah, we'll
or-
go with
Everton
actor.
fan as well, I think.
Yeah.
You're an actor.
Yeah.
Adam.
Actor.
Al.
I'm going to go actor as well.
Yeah, you're all right. He's an actor. Obviously, that's a ridiculous question. Lionel Messi. Johnny.
Footballer.
Adam.
Footballer.
Al.
Footballer.
Yeah. So obviously, you get the idea.
Yes.
Oh, was that not part of, I thought I was doing well.
Okay, so the first one. Carlos Valderrama. Johnny.
Footballer.
Adam.
Actor.
You're going actor. Al.
He's a footballer with marvellous hair.
He's a footballer with marvellous hair, so that's
I
a
knew
point
the name
each
as
for-
well.
a point each for Johnny.
Colombian
Yeah.
footballer.
He is big blonde afro.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 The
Play,
guy.
always was like constantly 33, but played to be about 50.
Has he had some work done recently?
No, you're thinking of Rene Higuita.
Ah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Barkhad Kabdi. Johnny,
Actor.
you're an actor. Adam,
I'll also go actor.
actor.
I will also go actor.
He's an actor. He
Yeah.
is the head Somali pirate in Captain
In
Phillips.
Captain
Phillips,
Yeah. Look at me.
Did he win an Oscar for that?
No, he got nominated, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I don't know if he won. Okay, Gerard Deulofeu. Footballer or actor, Johnny?
Footballer.
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 Yeah, he's a footballer. Yeah. Gael Garcia Bernal. Johnny.
Actor.
Adam.
Tell me the name again.
Gael Garcia. But apologies if I say any names wrong, by the way. I'm doing my best. Gael Garcia Bernal.
No, I'm gonna go footballer.
Footballer.
See, I know the name and I can't put it anywhere, but I'm going to go actor.
He is an actor.
Yeah.
So Nicolo Zaniolo. Or Zaniolo. Johnny.
Footballer.
I'm saying footballer.
Footballer.
He is. He plays
Plays for
for
Roma.
He plays for Roma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Halliwell. Johnny.
Footballer.
You're a footballer.
I'm going actor. I know the name.
Actor.
Now I feel like I'm wrong.
I'm going footballer.
He is an actor. He plays Zach Dingle on
Well done.
Emmerdale.
I knew I knew the
That's
name.
what's
It's a
right.
very
Adam's
broad-
pulled level.
Very
Adam's
broad
pulled
use of the
level.
word actor there.
Well, yeah. One of my favourite names, Max Power. Johnny?
Footballer.
Yeah, Adam.
Footballer.
Yeah,
Footballer.
I just wanted to put the name in there, to be honest.
For Sunderland.
Next one, Conrad Veidt. Johnny.
Actor.
I'm saying actor.
Al.
I'm going to go actor.
He's an actor. He
Yeah.
was in The Man Who Laughs. He's the original inspiration for the Joker.
I can't think of one footballer named Conrad. So I'll go with that.
Bobby Conrad.
Yeah, you know Bobby Conrad plays for. No, Donny van der Beek.
Footballer.
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 He is. Plays for Ajax. Is he?
Yeah.
Plays
Yeah.
for Ajax. David Simoncini.
Footballer.
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 Plays for San Marino. I think he's the captain of San Marino.
Didn't know that one.
You're all joint at the moment. Johnny, Jean Dujardin.
Actor.
The way you said it makes me think actor.
Yes, he was in
Yeah.
The Artist.
Right.
He's the head.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
He's the dog.
Yeah, he's the dog
the
from
dog
The
in The
Artist.
Artist.
Yeah, you know the dog from The Artist. Okay, Johnny, Charles Hart, actor or footballer?
Actor.
Adam.
I'm gonna go footballer.
Footballer, Adam. Al, sorry.
I'm going to go actor.
He's a footballer. It's Joe Hart's real name.
Oh.
He's called Charles Hart. So
Well done.
Adam got that one right. Next one, Simon Gregson. Johnny.
Oh, I'm getting mixed up with Simon Grayson.
Yeah.
So I'll go actor.
Actor.
I'm also gonna go actor.
Actor.
Footballer.
He's an actor. Vincent Cassell.
Oh, I know this one.
Actor.
Footballer.
Actor.
He's an actor.
Was he in Godzilla?
I think it might have been. He was in Ocean's 12. He was in La Haine. He's in Black Swan.
Is he French?
Yes. He's the ballet teacher from Black Swan.
Yeah. He's not in Godzilla. I'm thinking the other French guy.
Alessandro Nivola.
Footballer.
He's an actor. He is. He's the
guy.
He's the guy's best mate in Goal.
Okay.
Is he called Gaz something or something? No, that's not thinking of the FIFA. And he's also been Face Off. He plays whichever Nicolas Cage or whichever the terrorist one is, his brother.
Right.
He's in that. Yeah. So it's neck and neck between Johnny and Adam at the moment. Gerard Depardieu.
Actor.
Yeah. We should have put that one next to Delafeu. That was like the point. Ronald de Assis Morea.
Actor.
Footballer.
Has to be a footballer.
It's Ronaldinho's real name.
Oh,
I knew I'd heard it.
Kuno Becker. Actor or footballer?
Actor.
Actor.
And I know his name, but I can't think from what.
I'll go. Say the name again, please.
Kuno Becker.
Can I change mine to footballer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a footballer.
Actor.
He's an actor.
Oh, come on.
He is Santiago Munez
Yeah, he is, yes.
in the Goal films.
So technically,
So you
both.
Yeah. So you got that one right, Al. Ricardo Exexon dos Santos. Johnny.
Footballer.
Yeah, it's Kaká's real name.
Right.
Well, his Brazilian name.
Ricky.
And then
Victor
one
Santos,
last one. Hang on. Sorry, I'm butchering this. Washola Amiobi.
Neither.
Footballer.
It's Warshola, isn't it?
It's
footballer.
It's Shola Amiobi. So I'll give you a point.
Mac and Slayer.
So that's a tie between Johnny and Adam. So there's no film. So there we go. It's a tie. Brilliant.
Didn't I win though?
Sorry. Yeah, Al, you're the winner of that one. That's this week's episode. Thanks very much for coming in. Johnny, is there anything else you want to kind of talk to us about?
I can talk to you about a charity that I am an ambassador for, which is called Calm.
Oh, right.
They are the Campaign Against Living Miserably, and they're a men's mental health and suicide prevention charity. Okay. So they're able to access their services by telephone from 5 p.m. till midnight, 365 days of the year. You can also go on their website between 5 and midnight and have a web chat with people like you have with customer services things. It's also available if you aren't comfortable speaking over the phone, you're not want to vocalize any issues that you're having, any troubles that you have. Also the opportunity to fundraise for them and donate to them, which you can do on their website, which is thecalmzone.net. And they're a real worthwhile charity. I think they're quite a small one. I think a lot of people sort of know about the Samaritans and Mind, but when it comes to Calm, I think they're sort of, not been around as long, not as well established, but they're sort of really focused on men's mental health. Suicide is a real big issue amongst young men, especially under the age of 45, where it's the biggest killer in the UK. And 75% of suicides are by men. So obviously it's a huge, almost epidemic in this country. For the first time in a number of years, the suicide rate increased in 2018. So there's still a lot of work to be done. We're obviously much more open-minded, much more vocal as a society, but whether that message is reaching the people that particularly need to hear it is still another issue. But I think it's always quite comforting, especially as a young man myself, we're sat in a room with each other. Always good to know that there's people out there that are willing to listen to our issues. If we aren't comfortable talking about ourselves, we've just spent ages talking about films, and we should be able to talk about our own issues, mental health issues, in the same way that we can talk about football or films or music or what have you. But obviously as many people are comfortable doing that, especially with people that they might know, they might feel judged by them. So the phone line service, the web chat service offered by Calm gives people a different outlet that they might be more comfortable with if they are able to vocalize their issues. If not, you can still write them down, send them to Calm through the web chat service, and they'll offer the same sort of not opinions. They'll offer the same sort of advice and things that you would get over the telephone. It just makes things a little bit easier, makes things more subtle, possibly makes things a bit more anonymous for you, that no one can hear your voice or know where you're calling from. So they're a really worthwhile charity, and I'm very lucky, very privileged to be an ambassador for them and get to go around the country, go on different podcasts, go on different television programs and things like that, and talk about the amazing work that they do, and how people can access them.
That's brilliant. Thanks. We'll tweet a link out as well to donate. And when this episode comes out, so that's brilliant. Jonny, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's always great to initiate more people into the world of Empire Records.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to see what you're tweeting, where do they look?
My Twitter handle is @JohnnyGabriel, where you can find all sorts of nonsense about Steve Bruce and other related football activity.
Brilliant. If you do want to get in touch with the pod, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com, and the Twitter is @films_that. We're on Facebook as well, and Instagram. Adam, what's the Instagram?
It's @filmsandthatpod.
Yeah, so plenty of ways to get in touch with us. We're also on Twitter as well. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm @Joshy McSquashy with an IE in the Joshy. Al?
@Zootroy here.
Adam?
@award_89.
So lots of ways to get in touch with us. Jonny, thanks again very much for coming on. Cheerio. Hello, Josh here again. I just wanted to take another little minute to say thanks again for downloading the podcast. It really is greatly appreciated. If you do like it, then please like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Special mentions go to Lee for the music, Luke for the logo, and Abby for producing, editing, and generally putting up with us. If you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. Thanks once again, and see you next week. Cheerio.